I've spent about almost a month struggling with this, working 2 or 3 hours at a time until I get fed up, trying to remove the brakes and brake drums and get the back end of this thing sorted out so that it spins. I've done that, and what I'm trying to do now is just sort of document what's going on. I have the drum spinning, but I've taken the pads and the springs and everything out of the internal. But just so that I've got a record of what I had to do in order to get it done, I threw everything back together really quickly to sort of redocument how it all came together. So the first thing you need to do is take the crown nut off. There should be a cotter pin on there, and it should be torqued to about 200 foot-pounds. So you need to do that with, if your drums aren't locked, you need to do that with the transmission and gear and the car blocked and jacked accordingly. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Like I said, I've already had everything loose. There was a split pin in here. I've removed that already. Then you pull the bolt off, and then you remove the flange, and those things are good to go. I'm putting the bolt back on just so I don't lose it. And actually, if you can see inside here, you can see that the splines are stripped, and that's why this car ended up getting parked. So anyway, pull the flange off, and then the next thing you need to do, to be honest, to get to this and get this all extracted, I'm sure there's a way to do it without this, but I removed the exhaust pipe. The exhaust pipe went right over here and down to the muffler that sat about here. I'm going to readjust the camera. So the exhaust pipe was coming down, and then the muffler sat here. So I removed that, and then the next thing I did is I removed the suspension holding to the lower hub, pulled the pin out. Get the nut for that before I lose that. May have already lost it. Maybe not. All right, so get that out of there. The next thing is getting this piece out. This was actually a little bit more work. It's also a lot more work to put back in. This is 3/4. So let me just get that out of there. The rear bar is free. It's under a lot of tension. So now will this come out? No. All right. The reason for doing this is because a lot of this is under tension, and what it's doing is it's holding the plate onto the back of the drum. Now when you unbolt these bolts, there's still a ridge on the back of that plate that slots into the drum and keeps it centered. This is an asymmetrical pattern. It's not a square, it's a rectangle for these bolts. But so in order to get access to the bolts, it helps to be able to get the yoke further away, which means dropping the axle. So there's a fair bit of work to this, but I think we can do it pretty quickly. All right, now we should be able to get this free of the radius arm, and then the axle should drop down. See that you can get more clearance. Now, if your brake drums are stuck, it's probably not likely that you're going to be in exactly this position, but you'll probably be somewhere where you can get one bolt out. And so what you're going to need to do is break that bolt free. I've already done this because I just, like I said, spent the last month doing this. But now you see how you don't even have a lot of clearance here. And we can't actually get the bolt into the lower ones because, or can't get the wrench into the lower ones because of the clearance between the yoke and the bolt. So it's, you know, depending upon what your position is, it's going to be pleasant, but it's just going to be a matter of jockeying around until you get them all done. So I'm going to do it by hand, since you can't really get a wrench, socket set in there. Well, you can on this one. So I'll go ahead and do it. I was able to do that on the other side for one bolt, but since it was stuck, it was a lot of long, hard work breaking it free. I soaked these in penetrating oil daily for more than a week, and it probably helped somewhat, but it didn't address the whole issue, because once you see this taken apart, you'll understand. Okay, so there's the first bolt, but the penetrating oil would go in and free up this part of it. I put penetrating oil around here to help loosen the plate, but the way it is, it goes bolt, U-joint, yoke, drum, and then the flange on the back, which is actually part of the differential. So where you need to get the penetrating oil is on the back, and you can't do that from here. All right, that's one. Let's see if we can get another. And this is really probably how you're going to have to do this the entire way. So I'm going to rotate. Actually, I'm going to do 3 of them this way if I can. Also, you notice that this doesn't swing down very far. This U-joint only has probably about a 20-degree angle in it at best. Okay, so I'm actually going to go on there. There we go. It looks so simple with power tools. And the interesting thing here is that the yoke is slipping, or coming out of the Alright, let's get in and try and get this one. Lucky me. Tight. So I had to grind the tool down quite a bit and narrow it up, which weakens it, but that was really the only way I could get clearance in to get all 4 of these bolts. And on one bolt, if you've got the drum struck, or the drum stuck, you're going to have to actually just use the open end side of the wrench. And these were rusted so badly that after I ground this down, I was actually flexing this open and starting to round the nuts, or the bolt heads. So it's easy on paper, but if you're not dealing with a set of well-maintained brake drums, you're in a lot of trouble, and you're going to have to do this. You know, hopefully, if that happens to you, you're in a better situation to try and sort something out. But worst case, this works. I didn't break any bolts. I didn't really round any of them too badly. These are 3/8 by 24 by, I don't know, 1.5 inches or an inch. I think probably an inch. So they're easily replaced, but the alarm's cramping up. They will come out. You just need a lot of work. And in the end, to break these free, I had to use this wrench and a brass hammer and pound the daylights out of it till I could crack them free. And it took probably a half a turn before I could actually move them effectively without the hammer. And after that, they came out fairly easily, much as I'm doing now. All right, so you see 3/8 by 24 pitch thread, and they're just a little bit over an inch long. All right, 2 down. Two to go. It's already out. Now the fun thing about this is going to come crashing down, so I'm going to use the socket set if I can get it in there. This one actually looks like it's almost out. Voila. And the last one. Now, after this came off, this yoke was still rusted to the drum. One of the things I did before I really started working on it much is I took a wire brush to it and I knocked off as much of everything as I could so that I could work in a little bit cleaner environment if possible and see better what I was doing, because honestly I couldn't really make out some of the stuff going on here beforehand. Now this is going to be interesting, because as the socket moves out, it's going to apply pressure. As the bolt backs out, it's going to apply pressure on the socket, which is going to hit the yoke, and I may have to back it in to get the... No, I didn't. All right, well, there you are. That probably won't happen to you if you're suffering from rust. All right, remember I've already taken the internals of the drum out, but because this stuff, you can see there's a flange here, or there's a lip on the flange that fits in here and centers this. And because of the geometry of the suspension, the way this sits, there's a bolt going through the radius arm into this back connecting rod that holds everything level this way. And then there's another bolt on the side, as you can see here, that runs through this part of the hub and through the shock and spring and through the back of the radius arm, and holds it level this way. Now the radius arm does torque. I don't know if you can see it torquing. The radius arm does torque, so you have a little bit of play, but you're going to be hard pressed to be able to pull this lip out from here to get the drum off. Once I got to this point, honestly, that was the halfway point. And what I had to do beyond that, I had to go out and buy a drum puller and mount that, and you can see the wear marks on it. Actually, the only way I could get it in there to have it actually effective is up here. And it took me probably about 3 or 4 pulls to get these off. I found that the brake shoes were in terrible condition. One of them was 50% gone. And I don't mean 50% worn, I mean the bottom half, or actually the top half of it was just missing. But after that, oh really? Looks like I'm pulling the brake the hard way. Let's see if I can get it off with the... That's entertaining. Didn't expect to have to do that again. These are an invaluable tool. The quality of this one wasn't very good. When I got it, the threads were boogered up. I literally had to take it into a machine shop and have them recut the threads on it. And it was damage on the bolt rather than the oh, okay, so that goes in there. And I'll slide that up to the centers. I'll try and fit that in there. See if I can, is that the right socket? No, it's not. For the fun part. Now this isn't very difficult to do. It's kind of a pain because you're holding 15, 20 pounds at arm's length as you adjust screws, try to get those tabs to fit behind the drum. But telling you, I pulled and here's what you get. If you can see that, but this is where the pad was sitting, and you can see how the pad, it literally adheres to the side of the drum. Here was the other pad, and I knocked a lot of rust off before I was able to pull these, just by striking it with the brass mallet. I think these drums are actually recoverable. I probably will have them turned until I can figure out a better solution to the brakes, but there you have it. That's everything taken apart. The bottom of the pad hooks into here. The top end of the pad hooks in here. It's parking brake. This is the adjuster to tighten the brakes. This is a ratchet that prevents you from backing them out. On other cars, I've seen a slot behind there where you could reach in with a screwdriver and ratchet them forward and backward to manually tighten the brakes or back the pads off for when you wanted to remove the drum. That's not the case in this, though the manual shows a hole. At least the manual I've got shows a hole back there. But that's it. So now to get this off, there are two clips behind here. They're C-shaped, and they lock into the back of this, and I'm sure these are rusted in, but this is the frame and that's the back of the seat. So it's a challenge to get to, but that's the basics of getting the brake drum off. It didn't take me that long, maybe 20 minutes this way, but plan on days. You're going to get frustrated and need to walk away a few times. Anyway, there it is. And now I discover that I probably have some issues with the differential. I certainly have a lot of issues with this. And I'm hoping that somebody can point me to or tell me how to get a set of disc rotors or disc brakes on here. I want to put on rotors and calipers. I think they're going to have to be front mounted down here. I know on my Jaguar they're up in here. I had an XJS and that was a challenge, but I think I want to try to see if I can work with somebody to get a set of disc brakes manufactured for this. Doing that, I'll have to probably change the master cylinder as well, because the volume of brake fluid pushing out to like 2 pistons or 4 pistons on the back is going to be a lot more than the amount of fluid that's in that. So it's not going to be super straightforward, but it probably can be done. In order to remove this, which incidentally is not stamped, well, it may be stamped, but it's not sheet metal. It's pretty much the same thickness as this part of the radius arm. All right, that's it.